The Fed pump is back, and so is the market. Most people don't know why the market went down to begin with Bitcoin testing 84. I'll explain that briefly. Then we'll talk about how the Fed restarted QE along with a giant mutual fund buying everything, a virtual repeat of what you saw when Bitcoin was at 16K. When BlackRock came in and, all the liquidation selling ended, only to see the market go up only. This market is so primed, you are going to have what is called stopping in. They're like, what's stopping in? I know stop out when you do a bad trade, but what's stopping in? Well, if you want to learn about what stopping in is, right, and where that could take the market, right, there's the conservative view, and then there's the more radical view discussed in the YouTube member area by our ace analyst, Tobie Ward. We might discuss a little bit of that, but we need to discuss stopping in. Patreon is loaded at the low. Basically, the title of that piece was, Is It Christmas? As well as the 2026 preview, also covered in the YouTube member area. Again, we mean business about this thing going up. Literally, I stayed up all night to get these people ready for this, because this could be a normalization back to 109 or 114, or it could be something much bigger. We'll discuss what, where, when, and why the market is behaving like this. But first, I'm your host, Bill Noble. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the show. Subscribe so we can help you. All right. Now, let's begin with the obvious. The United States at Christmas, with an administration that was wildly popular a year ago and is now wildly unpopular, has to win an election in a year. So, can they afford to have falling asset prices? Can they afford to have falling home prices? Can they afford to have the stock market get wrecked? Americans have, like 80% of their net worth tied up in stonks and their house. And that's all going to implode, right? If I have to watch one more macro head on a podcast go, well, Bitcoin went down and Bitcoin is the canary in the coal mine and equities have to follow Bitcoin lower. Well, not necessarily, bro. Not in the Santa rally period. Not when the administration wants to pump up the jam. Now, let's talk about pumping up the jam. Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, is sitting on $1 trillion that can be injected into the marketplace. And then yesterday, unbeknownst to most people, even though it was out there on Twitter, the Fed put $13 billion into the money market to stop the funding stress where, banks didn't necessarily feel like lending to each other, to simplify it. The last time the Fed did that was back in 2019, and it wasn't affecting stonks and crypto at the time, but it was affecting the plumbing of the banking system. And guess what? When the Fed came in and did what it just did recently, that problem ended. The Fed pushed money in the system and left it in the system. And people don't realize that everyone's talking about QT ending at the end of at the beginning of December. So everyone's talking about QT ending at the beginning of December, quantitative tightening. And it took people 24 hours to figure out that they just started doing quantitative easing. So they had to start printing before they stopped tightening. That was the urgency to pump up the jam. Now, this combined with the administration and America in general with the debt level not being able to afford, we cannot afford to have asset prices go down. So, one, asset prices cannot go down. Two, the Fed just restarted QE. And then the triple threat, the new BlackRock is Vanguard. So you have a gigantic mutual fund house with a retail trading base like Schwab. Like think of it as the size of BlackRock with a retail trading arm attached to it. So it's like BlackRock plus Schwab. They allowed their customers access to the Bitcoin ETF today. Now you're like, okay, Bill, well, what does that mean? Well, it's very simple. First of all, they're going to let their customers market buy it, and it makes sense to sell Magnificent 7 stocks that are up 30% for the year and buy Bitcoin, which is down 30% for the year. That's just how equity people think. It's like, wow, we can allocate 1 or 2% of our portfolio to this. And if everybody in Vanguard goes, oh, wow, look, down 30%, let's buy some of this, either as an investment or as a speculative play, this is huge volume. And in fact, Bitcoin ETF volume today surpassed 5 billion. Okay, now let's add one more thing to it. Vanguard's mutual funds are going to buy the Bitcoin ETF. That's what Vanguard really does. Now, the reason they're going to buy the Bitcoin ETF, other than the, intelligent, simple equity market strategies I just mentioned, is do you really think that they are going to usher their customers into a bear market? It's like, hi, welcome to the bear market. You are everyone's exit liquidity. We are going to sell to Vanguard customers, and it's going to go to 60K. That Vanguard's going to allow that, right? Wrong. That is not happening. Matter of fact, from their point of view, they didn't want the Bitcoin ETF when it was at 40K. Their customers lost their mind when it was 120, and they got lucky and rolled it out after a 40% decline. So if they're mutual funds on a regular basis, right? People's 401ks, money coming in all the time. If 1 or 2% of all that money or more winds up in Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin becomes like the 8th member of the Magnificent 8, Bitcoin now has what you would call sponsorship, money coming in all the time. Macro nerds on podcasts call it a structural bid. Now, what's been happening, if you're wondering why the market was going down, because no one's really been able to figure that out, it's actually pretty simple. Really. Hedge funds that were long Bitcoin and short MicroStrategy unwound their trade and dumped their Bitcoin. And most likely had lots of fun shorting Bitcoin along the way because there was no structural bid. Michael Saylor had done all his buying. There was nobody underneath Bitcoin when everyone started selling. And you had events in Asia that we don't have to go over. It's about the yen carry trade that simply allowed algorithms. Every time there was like a negative development with the Japanese bond market, algos just hit Bitcoin. They should be hitting stonks, but that's not going to work. Not at this time of the year. They just picked on crypto. And then what happened was everybody got bearish. All the chart levels got broken. A narrative developed about the 4-year cycle. Short sellers continued to press. They took no heed. Short sellers took no heat on the way down. So the shorts just pressed it and pressed it and pressed it. They broke it to 80. There was a wonderful rally. And then on Thanksgiving, just to make sure you were upset, they did it on Sunday night when everyone's chilling out and traveling. Boom, right back down to 80. However, noticing that they did it all overnight and there was no follow through in the New York time period. So they dropped the market. It looks terrible. You sit there, it's down 6%, and it's almost like total despair, which is when I moved into action and Tobie moved into action in the YouTube member area and on Patreon. Absolutely moved in with every chart bottom that you could think of. And we'll go over some of that today because it gets better and better and better. But essentially, and this comes back to the point we talked about at the beginning about stopping in. So, big legacy hedge funds, yeah, they just dumped all their Bitcoin. That's why it was so horrible for crypto, right? They dumped the Bitcoin. They didn't go into an altcoin. The money left crypto, left the system. It's like a tightening. All those guys, guess what? They don't have any more Bitcoin. No more Bitcoin for you. So if Bitcoin is now the 8th member of the Magnificent Eight and Bitcoin goes back to 120, guess what? Those hedge funds, crypto and otherwise, are now underperforming. So what do you do when you're underperforming at the end of the year? You FOMO in and market buy it. You stop in. You're like, oh my God, I can't afford to not participate in this. And everyone FOMOs in. The crypto hedge funds went after the altcoins today, which is why they were up 10 or 12%. Because if this thing does take off, they can't afford to miss it. Sometimes rallies that big, short sellers will fade them, call them a bear market rally, or people are stopping in. Also notice that there's an absolute V bottom, right? Thing went straight down, stopped, and went straight back up again. I mean, you have an island bottom on the MicroStrategy chart, meaning down, gap down, and then gap up and go. Now, I think these hedge funds, I don't know if they're desperate, but they really love this trade. They really want to get Michael Saylor. To get Michael Saylor is like the new Big Short. We got to break MicroStrategy. They've even got Cramer now doing his reverse indicator thing, going, yeah, I think Michael Saylor is going to beat those short sellers, knowing full well that, everyone's going to fade that. Everyone gets the, oh my God, Michael Saylor's in trouble now because Cramer likes him. These psyops paid for by your local macro hedge funds. I'm not buying it. I know guys that have been picking on MicroStrategy and how expensive it is versus the Bitcoin that it holds. These guys came out and said, yeah, you know what? The trade's done, right? MicroStrategy is worth, I don't know, plus or minus 5%, 8% of the Bitcoin that it holds. Okay. You're going to remember the time when everyone made fun of Michael Saylor and you could have bought Bitcoin at 80 you had a chance at 70 in April and 2 shots at 80. Now, not you, but I'm talking about the world in general. And what's really funny is that everybody just spent the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks getting out and never coming back in. I'm out. Then you had the start of QE and Vanguard come in all in the same day. And amazingly, it took the market 24 hours to figure it out. I've been screaming about it literally for 24 hours. I mean, it's as plain as day. And then the thing you can't see is that not only did the Fed come in and do this little thing in the plumbing of the banking system, but they've also got high-powered money in the system. How do you know? Because this is exactly how the market traded the last time they had to do that for the holiday season back in 2023. I mean, they did it in September to try to give the administration one last Merry Christmas right before the next election. And the same thing is happening today. They're going to announce a new Fed chairman who's going to have a whole new dovish policy that follows what Alan Greenspan did during the last technology revolution. He's basically going to say, well, if AI is making everything more productive, we can lower interest rates. Interesting theory. Meanwhile, again, are you going to have problems in the banking system at Christmas? This thing in Japan with the yen carry trade and, what was happening in their bond market, that was serious. And the Fed and the Treasury and the president are just going to all sit around and go, whoa, countdown to a Christmas blow up. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want to have. No. All the Fed has to do is say, all right, this little problem in the banking system, boom, we're going to take care of it. You need 13 billion, you need 26 billion, you need 40 billion. It doesn't matter. They're going to take care of it. They just told you that. It's like the second biggest injection of that type. Meanwhile, back at the crypto ranch, this high-powered money that's in the system. So the Fed is pumping, Vanguard is pumping, and no one is long. No one. No one is left. Not on the institutional side. Crypto hedge funds out. Legacy hedge funds out. Retail out. I mean, what are they stopping out? $400 million in shorts? And if you really would like some comedy, if you really would like some fun, because tonight is a fun night, and we'll go over that. But all the people that probably own the Bitcoin ETF have done what's called hedged, right? They've gone out and shorted perps or bought derivative instruments that would protect them if the market went down. And those hedges are going to get unwound, right? Hedging is a process of protecting yourself. It's also a hedge is also something a little doggy pees on, because hedging frequently doesn't work because people only hedge after the down move has occurred. So when they have to unwind the hedges, when they have to take all that stuff off, yeah, that adds buying pressure to the market. So the shorts are getting stopped out. The bulls are out. The bulls are short, and everyone has to buy at the same time, which is why the market trades like this. Meanwhile, back at the central bank ranch, the Fed has a meeting on the 10th. Powell did a little talk yesterday. He said nothing about it. That's because they're putting high-powered money in the system. He's just going to have to cut and walk off the stage with his, walk off the stage and say, get me out of here for Christmas. I'm done. I'm so embarrassed. The guy has mismanaged it that badly. So they're going to cut. And then there's a Japanese central bank meeting on the 18th that everybody 2 days ago was worried was going to, be world-ending stuff. Really? The Japanese central bank is going to blow up risk assets 7 days before Christmas. Really? It's like, oh, President Trump on line 1, Santa Claus on line 2. It's not happening. It's absolutely not happening. Now, I would like to take this moment. We're going to go over the Bitcoin TA. We're going to get all into the TA, the massive DeMark reversal signals. It's just completely mind-boggling, the charts and whatnot that we gave Patreon and the YouTube members at the low. Feel free to share it with you because it's still in play. It's more than still in play because you know what? You're actually getting follow through to the upside in Asia time. Oh, I thought it was the end of the world in Asia time. I thought the world was ending. No, apparently not. Apparently not, right? All time to cover. Because, one of the things about when a crisis hits crypto Twitter, right? When a legacy crisis like tariffs or M2 or the yen carry trade, when it's all over crypto Twitter, it's over. It's that simple. It's over. You don't have to understand it. Whatever it is, it's done, which is why they're buying the market in Asia time, which is radical because you're getting follow through on this bullish reversal. I would like to take a moment to thank all of our viewers. Today is the 3-year anniversary of this channel, right? We formed this channel, let's just say in a stressful transition period, right? We literally threw the doors open. And then soon after we kind of threw the shop door open for Patreon and then YouTube the year after that. We would like to thank everyone who supports us, because we will continue to kick butt. We are a research house with YouTube as kind of the front-facing part of it. And people are very interested in research versus the standard fluff that's normally out there. And of course, during that very stressful time period, 3 years ago, even though I wish all those people well, we have done quite well for ourselves. Just maybe not in terms of money and fame, but we are still here, and I am vindicated in Zcash. So I want to thank everybody, Eagle King and Tobie, and every single person who's ever watched or hit the like button for getting us through 3 years of kicking butt and taking name. Somebody is asking, is Tobie a real person? Yes, Tobie is a person, a crypto analyst with clairvoyant abilities. Okay, so yes, that is Tobie. We make up the YouTube member podcast. It's a man and a woman talking about crypto, and my message to Skynet is good luck replicating that. That's part of the value proposition behind it. Okay, so that is the answer as to who Tobie is. Now, back to the Big Short. The Big Short fantasy. Now, as Bitcoin rises, we have people talking about the massive overvaluation in stonks, right? So the guy from the Big Short in 2008, he was the guy that made this big bet. Actually, he was way too early that everything would absolutely fall apart, and it did, right? And it was very stressful for him to hold on to that view and that trade. So he became famous, and now every hedge fund manager wants to be the Big Short guy. Everybody wants to do it. They were doing it in crypto 2 days ago, and now they're just going to sing for us. But in equities, the guy Michael Burry added, he's got NVIDIA and Palantir, and today he announced that he's super short Tesla. Okay, so these companies have accounting problems. Tobie expects some sort of reckoning in the equity market at some point early next year. That's fine, right? Because we all know that's overdone. We all know their accounting is fake. You know, we all know this. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it doesn't matter until it does. However, I submit to you this. What if the big trade is the big long, not the big short? If the big trade is to be long crypto or to BTFD in crypto now and after any debacle that could occur next year, what happens if it's the big long? Like, for example, where is Bitcoin going to be? Where is Bitcoin going to be in June of next year? Like, what's the base case? What's the bull case? Well, that's in Patreon Platinum. And those could be some very large numbers because everyone thinks it's the big short. And I think it's the big long. Now, can these stocks go down? Yeah, sure. Everything can go down after everybody gets finished stopping into Bitcoin. I mean, the conservative target that I would come up with, you know, after looking at all the charts is like 109. Now, what that would do was bring the market back above the 55-week moving average. Very interesting, right? All the end of cycle, end of world, end of. Right. What would happen if they unwound all of these older indicators that may not be relevant today? What is relevant is Bitcoin just did a 30% correction. So Bitcoin does a 30% correction, which is exactly what it's done in prior bull cycles. Exactly, right? And it looked absolutely horrible, and it always looks absolutely horrible at a bottom. It looked terrible. You sat here, you know, Zcash is down. Everybody was negative. Meanwhile, the Fed's printing. The printing press is running, and Vanguard is just, doing crowd control, trying to get everybody into the Bitcoin ETF. The Bitcoin ETF is BlackRock's most profitable business. That's how big the Bitcoin ETF is. And now you have something the size as BlackRock about to start consuming it. I mean, good luck seeing this go down at least until you see it stretched out to the upside. And I don't think 109 is stretched out to the upside at all. At all. You know, it can go up there. Now, it's got to work through resistance. You know, buying strength has not worked. I get it. I understand. But what you need to think about is, why was Bitcoin down to begin with? Like, Bitcoin was at 120, right? And whales and miners, really miners, had to sell. Emphasis is had to. Everybody kept talking about, people who became, billionaires, taking their money and leaving. Okay, that's fine. But that's not why there was monstrous volume traded up there at 120. It was miners liquidating Bitcoin to diversify into AI, to comply with something from an index company called MSCI. They didn't want to have more than 50% of their assets in Bitcoin. So they had to unload some of the Bitcoin and, diversify or hang on to it. Now, what's really funny about miners, also called OG whales, selling up at 120 is, yeah, it did stop the bull market. It did allow Michael Saylor to get involved. But here's what's funny is that going forward, because Bitcoin miners have diversified into AI, meaning they're renting computer space to people who need processing power for AI. So they've got this new business, and miners don't have to sell as much Bitcoin as they used to in order to fund operations. So they did what they had to do to comply with this new little rule, whether you understand it or not. It was a one-off sale. So when everybody goes to stop back into the market and all the hedge funds are out, retail's out, short, depressed, and who's the seller? Okay, well, the miners might be a seller if it goes up. Well, they're done. They're done. They don't have to sell anymore. They don't. So who sells? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how far they can take this thing. I had 94K in Bitcoin as like a key level. Maybe that acts as resistance. Maybe, right? I know this morning, like if I go to screen share, right? So I'm looking at like the 4-hour DeMark chart on Bitcoin. And I'm going to be honest with you, luckily it did hold at 84. I'm not going to show it because it's obvious, Bitcoin at 84K was the 38% retracement of the entire up move from 16K to 126. Simple 38% retracement. 84K conveniently shows up on the 4-hour chart, but this 4-hour chart this morning didn't look very good. Now, if they start popping through 92, they have, the next objectives being 100 and 103. Interesting little, if you go to like a short-term chart, and I know you just lived through all this, but I mean, if you look at this visual, straight down on algos liquidating everybody, an absolute give up trade followed by a monster reversal. And then to really have fun, you go to the big altcoin charts. Solana with the 13 bottom, the DeMark 13 bottom, bursting through a moving average, confirming the bottom, and then getting additional follow through. We'll see at 164 or 198. I mean, it's hard to find another. This was the 13 bottom in Solana in June. Straight up. Straight up, it went from 130 to 200. Boom. XRP. Joy to the world. A beautiful 13 bottom with follow through. Now, this was a serious fake out here after this 13 bottom. $2 is the new 55 cents, people. I got a short video that's performing quite well that says just that. It sat at 55 cents and tortured everybody, and now it's sitting at $2, and everybody's wondering, is this thing ever going to go up? XRP is fast money. Its partner, QNT, or its little brother, is going up. QNT is going up and being pulled off exchanges. Now, QNT, along with Stellar and Cardano and Hedera, they're all in this special group. Look at this. QNT, 13 bottom. This is before Thanksgiving and straight up. These are coins that, people have to buy. They have to utilize them. It's called ISO 20022. XRP, QNT, XDC, Algorand, Hedera, Cardano, and XRP. So what goes up? What no one owns, what no one likes, no one knows how to buy, no one understands. QNT. QNT leading XRP. Katie bar the door. Let's talk about ETH. Let's talk about what's there and what's not there. Okay, here's the 13 bottom in ETH. All right. Similar to XRP, right? You have this rally, and then you'll notice there's no numbers on any of these bars. There's no numbers. Now, this is open to interpretation, but if there's no numbers, my attitude is this was all everything when this market went from 4,000 to 2,700, which, by the way, is the 62% retracement of this year's rally from 1,300 to 4,800. Yeah, this is just all bunk. This is just a give-up trade. This is just everybody going, yeah, I quit. Just throwing in a towel. ETH's done, I don't know. ETH's done 4.0. And again, look at this TA tactical, I don't know, just awful, right? So you get the 13 bottom on this huge puke, and that's the bottom, right? It's all over. Yeah, wrong. They're going to slam it again. And they left it down there for 4 hours. And then, they brought it back, but it just really kind of sat there. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was supposed to be the bottom at 2,800, and you had to live with this thing at or below 2,800 kind of for 2 days. Now, that's just awful, right? And if you think about what's going on in ETH, okay, yeah, there's resistance at 3,100, but if they break that, the next one's at 3,400. I mean, it depends on what kind of mood the market is in. It feels like the new range in a worst case scenario is 88 to 98. That feels like the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is Tobie's scenario, which is in the YouTube member area. And it goes along the theme of stopping in and this whole idea of the big short, right? You may make a lot of money if you catch a top in stonks, right? Because there's going to be a top in stonks. There's going to be a change in political power. There's going to be a change in capital gains tax rates, or at least they're going to try, right? And that's going to freak people out. So people will take profits, next year, right? And then if you have any type of negative catalyst, okay, yeah, you can get rolling in stonks. Of course it can. But that doesn't mean Bitcoin has to go down. Not at all. I mean, Bitcoin probably will if it's a mess. But I mean, we've had our mess, haven't we? We had our 40% correction. You want to take a shot at what happens when you would get 40% corrections back in 2017? Oh my God, it would go vertical. Oh, by the way, right around this time of year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Market loves to do big things during the holidays. Everybody thought it was going to go up. And then on Thanksgiving, they blew everybody out with the yen carry trade scare. What happens if the winter solstice on December 20th and this Bank of Japan potential nothing burger on the 18th sends this market into outer space? Into outer space. If you look at ETH, okay, so, ETH is above one quantitative moving average that it has really struggled to stay above since October, actually, since the Binance crash. So the beautiful thing is this is some really nifty looking moving average price action. But you know what? If you take the moving average off, where's the next point in ETH? Like, what remember how I said this whole thing was just, BS? Okay, well, there's a lot of blue sky over here. This is 4,600. Again, this is drawn by a quantitative system. Like, I don't draw this dotted line. The machine does. Who's talking about ETH at 4,600? I'm pretty sure the answer to that is nobody, right? Everybody was making fun of Tom Lee. Tom Lee, the ETH treasury guy, started running his 2018 playbook. He actually probably thought the market was going down. So he was going to go on TV every single day and say, it's going to make a new high. It's going to make a new high. It's going to make a new high, which is what he did in 2018 as the market was falling. And then, of course, it turned around, not made a new high, but it was going to go to 10 or 15K at the time. And it was like, it's 6. And he was going to do the same thing. He was going to come on TV every day and just say it's going up until it finally did. Okay, he thought it might take a week or a month, I'm thinking. And guess what? It happened in like 2 days. And you got Cramer and, like I said, this strange psyop where all these hedge funds are after MicroStrategy, and their real problem isn't whatever MicroStrategy is trading at. Their real problem is what could happen to Bitcoin. In other words, what could happen to MicroStrategy or crypto stocks in general if Bitcoin turned around and went up. Because there is a beautiful point to be made about crypto stocks, so stay right here. There was a lot of excess, right? There was a lot of stuff where crypto was either neutral or going down. Some company would announce they're buying Bitcoin or Ethereum on their balance sheet with borrowed money, and the stock would 5x. Even though crypto, altcoins have done nothing, zero. This market was dead, and they had this idiotic festival on Robinhood with crypto treasury companies. Well, the good news is that's all been purged. So we've purged all the excess. No one is long. Everyone is short. Everyone thinks it's the end of the cycle. Everyone is bearish. List all the problems. I don't know. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time because every podcast is like, well, you know, there are all these problems in the world and I'm long gold and gold is going much higher, but I'm not really sure about Bitcoin. Bitcoin should catch up and I'm not so sure about that. Okay. Let's take a brief moment to review. Gold and silver go up because people are concerned about the financial system. I mean, there are other reasons, but the primary macro reason is people are concerned about the system, period. The banking system, the system. So everybody goes, oh my God, too much debt, too many bank problems, buy gold and silver. Okay. Well, eventually that gets to a point where it brings in a Fed response. It brings in a big one. You know, the Fed looking at gold at 4K headed for 5K and silver headed for 60 or 100, they're going, no, we can't be looking at this. They've had enough fun. We're going to flood the system. And then that's when gold slows down because the crisis is not a crisis, at least for now. And then Bitcoin says, wow, look at this. Everyone's out. And here comes the money pumping risk assets for the Santa rally. So no one's going to get short stocks. Stocks are not going to go down. And the Fed just flooded the market with liquidity with Vanguard chasing the market. And this is going to go down because, seriously, people need to really, really think deeply about what's happening here, right? Because I don't think people are appreciating what can happen. Now, let's talk about Zcash. Okay. Kind of a difficult trade. And I like the fact that it's difficult because Zcash was too easy on the way up. And now this is hard. So expanding this out as far as I can, you had an X wave on the 1st of December. Okay. When I did the research on that, it said Zcash should make a new low, which it did. I mean, it actually was horrible. It was actually going up and then collapsed. And then they tried to hit it again tonight, right? Down to I don't know, what is the 304? So the 62% retracement, a classic number in crypto, the 62% retracement of the major run up was about 314, somewhere 314, 305, something in that area. So right in front of a psychological even number, Tobie 350. So I treated, 315, 320 as Christmas. Now you realize if you go over here to DeMark, right? And you start looking at Zcash, here's what you're going to find. So this was the 13 top. So that was, excessive FOMO. They unwind the FOMO. If it goes bad, it'll go to 200 on this dotted line. But if you look at the DeMark Elliott wave, okay, this was a 3 wave. You see the 3. And this was a 4 wave. Now, normally a 3 wave is a steady uptrend. This fits the definition perfectly. And this fits the definition of, a sharp, nasty retracement that makes it hard, that makes it difficult on people. Boom. 62% retracement of the whole move on this was 317. I think it's sitting at 317 right now. Now, if this DeMark Elliott wave is right, there's going to be a new high. There's going to be a new high. I mean, I was doing deep research on this. You can see Zcash at 800 in a month. Now, of course, it's not investment advice. You have to be mindful that if you're wrong about this, it's going to go down. You're going to lose 30%. So you're going to lose. Your risk is from 300 to 200, basically. And your upside is from 300 to 800. Because if you haven't looked at how Monero is trading, oh my goodness, right? Monero has an incredible bid to it. It never went down. It never went down. Now, is Monero going to outperform or continue to outperform? There's resistance at 430. This is a 4-hour chart. But if you look at what's going on in Monero, it's actually sitting on top of one of these DeMark moving averages. This should have been a top signal and it wasn't. If it's supposed to go down and it doesn't, what's it going to do? There's that 4-wave signal here. You could get Monero at 500. And right now, as it sits on this moving average, it's a bird on a wire getting ready to fly. That's what we call something that's sitting on top of a moving average like this, kind of flat. Boom. And this says nothing about most altcoins, right? If we went and started talking about total crypto market cap, I mean, the total value of all of crypto is less than 3 trillion or was less than 3 trillion 2 days ago. Wow, really? Altcoins are at 885 billion. And wouldn't you know, if you look at total 3, so total 3 is Bitcoin is total crypto market cap minus Bitcoin and ETH. So it's essentially XRP, Solana, and all altcoins. Sitting on a gigantic Gann number at 890, deeply oversold, exactly where altcoins were back in July. So everything positive that's happened in altcoins in the last 6 months was summarily unwound, and LuxAlgo is coming in with the quantitative momentum signal, which I just lost. But it's coming, and they're breaking trend lines on the way up. There's a lot of trend lines here from LuxAlgo. One trend line they return to on this down move, which is really interesting. You know, break the trend line, return move. There's your quantitative buy signal, which is trying to sprout through. And we're negative on this market because, now, of course, I'm sure people are scared to buy. I'm sure short sellers are going to come out and start selling again. I mean, they have been paid handsomely to short every single rally, every single sit still moment. And I wish them well, because Tobie Ward in the YouTube member area has a completely different view as to how things are going to turn out. And this says nothing about Patreon, where we literally posted, is this Christmas? Is this Christmas? The hidden preview, the Bitcoin preview. She laughed at my panic. Why she bet. Okay, here we go. She laughed at my panic. My panic. I was panicking at 80, by the way. Why she still bets 180K on Bitcoin by December 31st. Wow, could we be any more clear about that? That's insane. That can't happen, right? Okay. Well, when it was at 120, if you had told me it was going to 80, which one of our models did, shame on me for not believing it. When this thing was at 120 and, they were forming Bitcoin treasury companies, and Tom Lee was talking about ETH going to 10,000, and that was like consensus. Oh yeah, ETH's at 4,800. It's definitely going to 10,000. $2,000 later on the downside, there's no talk about it. Notice that. No talk about stable coins, by the way. The Genius Act. Remember that on crypto Twitter? Oh, the Genius Act. Yeah, everyone forgot about that. They went to the yen carry trade and forgot about the fact that stable coins are going to run on ETH and Solana to such an extent. The communist Chinese and the Russians are crying about it, that the dollar has gone digital, that their attempt to sell our treasury debt and stop buying our treasury debt will fail, because we'll be able to proliferate US dollar stable coins. And who is going to want their trash currency when you can buy a digital dollar? Yes, I know we have problems, and I know Costco is a nightmare. I know that. But, you go overseas and people's attitude about the dollar is different. They're going to want US dollar stable coins. That's going to allow them to take the debt ad infinitum, and the communists are crying about it. But there's no talk about what that could mean for crypto and layer one prices. Because this is happening, right? And ETH was not only below where it was when FTX started in 2022. That was the last big, gigantic, system-wide, earth-shattering liquidation event. ETH was like destroyed at like 2,700. It was like, yeah, this is never going up again. And I'm like, oh, really? Is that so? Right? A Bitcoin Cash up 8%. Back to the Bitcoin complex. Everyone has forgotten about transactional Bitcoin. So there's Bitcoin, and then there's fast Bitcoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Zcash with privacy, Monero. What, you don't think you're going to need privacy in 2026? My next pounding the table on Zcash thing, other than staying with my hodl call from 3 years ago, right? Not only is it that, but people will think this can't happen again. People think the fact that Zcash 20x means that there's no more privacy trade. Oh, wait a minute. The guys at Antivirus, the Matrix token that they're going to come out with, their own like privacy DeFi platform. For God's sakes, you think this is a one-off? My argument was Zcash and privacy were leading the bull market, the new bull market. Now, of course, that was a very catchy thing to say right before they had to snap the glove on and give me a check all the way back down to 84 over Thanksgiving. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Now, the thing that is beautiful about the correction in Zcash, it's not a bull market until you can buy a dip and make money. I mean, you could 20x anything in crypto. If you have like the Winklevoss twins behind it, you have a treasury company in an illiquid environment. Zcash normally does well when Bitcoin goes down. So you had the perfect environment to have a 20x. But can you buy it, just as an example, on a 62% retracement? Can you buy Ethereum on a 62% retracement of its move this year? If you can, guess what? It's a bull market. Can you buy Bitcoin on this 38% retracement level? Yeah. If you can, it's a bull market, right? Here is the chart I keep saying I won't show, and I'm going to show it for anybody who's stuck around. The Bitcoin monthly chart, the one chart market update, right? Everybody knows that. We've been here 3 years. We laugh about the one chart market update. Okay, here we are. Yeah, November 2022, exactly when the channel started. Exactly. Okay. All the way up to 126, 5-wave top, and then boom, right down to the 38% retracement. And everyone's like, it's a bear market. It's over. It's done. No, it's not. It's just a simple retracement. Simple. This is like chart book page 5 or page 55. Buy support. Buy the 38% retracement. I mean, if I shared this screen again, right? And I just did this, and you had no idea what this was. You thought it was a stock or a currency or a commodity. Would you look at this and go, oh yeah, the world has ended? This is not a great LuxAlgo signal from a momentum point. I can admit that. But would you look at this and say it's the end of the world? This is going down here. This is going to 30 or 50. I mean, yeah, there are retracement levels here, but does it look like the end of the world? I don't think so. I think it looks like a simple retracement. What happened to keeping it simple? We keep it simple on the YouTube member podcast, and we publish a lot of complex work in Patreon that we distill down in a very executive summary type of way. So if you need the levels quick, you need a report that you can read, by the fire, maybe. Or if you just need it on your phone, go, okay, what do I do? What's the target? Where's this thing going? What's the 2026 preview? What are we doing? Somebody here mentioning oil. Oil going down is bullish for Bitcoin statistically. It's bullish for ETH if gold, silver, and the dollar, gold and silver go up and the dollar goes down. Those things are wonderful for ETH. Everyone's talking about silver at $60. Again, another Thanksgiving weekend, thing where they just impressed it upon you by shocking you with the holidays. Gold and silver can continue to go up. That's fine. But these gold and silver guys who knock Bitcoin, it's crazy. All commodities, you can have a supply response. Higher prices bring in more sellers, more miners. It's organic. It's a part of the commodities business. Okay, well, you cannot print more Bitcoin. You can't. Okay. So, if there's a price shock in Bitcoin on the upside, there's no more supply to create. So why everyone in gold is knocking Bitcoin, it's the same type of thinking. Gold being a precious metal as a central bank reserve. Common sense, even if miners do start selling. Okay. But this whole thing where these guys knock Bitcoin is a part of where they took the crypto brain and they just kind of chopped off a part. It's called the lobotomy, right? Everyone watched the price go down, and everyone watched Peter Schiff on Twitter, and everybody watched Michael Saylor fidget in his chair for MicroStrategy, looking pretty pale, and everyone wrapped the narrative around that. That is A, untrue. B, the market is supported by a technical analysis number, Fed QE, and Vanguard. And we hate the market. Crypto people hate the market. You could have had, this could be a giga bottom. This could be a mega bottom that gets away from the hedge funds on the upside. You know, notice these guys don't turn the aircraft carrier around on a dime. You know, that V bottom that I showed you. Listen, when you have things like that, hedge funds can't get turned around. Big players do not just go, oh, wow, gee, I guess we just sold all our Bitcoin and tried to get Michael Saylor and blah, 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 doing the big short. Uh-oh, let's get back in over here. No. It takes a lot longer than that. A lot longer than that. And there's no seller, none. And Bitcoin is currently reflecting that. This is the 90-minute chart, just simply showing you speed, magnitude, and direction. High school physics. What goes down a certain way goes back up the same way. So I don't know what they're thinking out there. You got $400 million worth of shorts liquidated so far. And I don't think that's probably the tip of the iceberg. That's not even including all the hedging done for the Bitcoin ETF. You know, that's in what's called the options market over there in stonks land. No telling how much hedging went on. No telling. That's all got to get unwound. And what happens if it's got to get all unwound all at once? I mean, being bullish hasn't exactly been easy. Like, Tobie's had to keep our members together. She's had to keep me together. She's sending me, like, watch this Bitcoin Maximalist podcast so you don't freak out. That was ugly. And they did it twice. First they did it to the crypto people. And then with this yen carry trade hootenanny, they did it to the legacy people. Anybody who liked Bitcoin for any reason, they tortured you with this down move. Well, guess what? Right? To the victors go the spoils. Everyone thinks hodling is easy. The road to new all-time highs and the road to 200K is paved with pitfalls of pain. Pitfalls of pain created by these 40% corrections and also by crypto Twitter wrapping narratives around price action, reinforcing negativity that never should have been there. It never should have been there. Like, wow, we're all going to take out Michael Saylor. Really? We're going to take out the guy that got on CNBC and explained Bitcoin to everybody, including Larry Fink from BlackRock? Wouldn't have the Bitcoin ETF. You can say what you want about BlackRock. They're not a nice group of people, but they did assist with mass adoption of Bitcoin using that ETF. People know what it is now. They can do it. They get it. Okay. Who helped Larry? Michael Saylor. So this, let's get Michael Saylor. Let's big short MicroStrategy. Okay. MicroStrategy stock went down. Okay. That was expected. Michael Saylor's not upset about that. He's issued all kinds of other instruments to fund his Bitcoin play. And if Bitcoin goes where we think it's going next year, it'll be a joke about how they tried to take Michael Saylor out at 80. It'll be a joke. Okay, David is here along with Bull Runner, the Late Night Warriors, for the 3-year anniversary stream. Giving love to all of our members. Okay, your Bass, the bass player, welcome. Navigating the crypto market would have me a nervous wreck without your insight. That is from me and from Tobie. And the Eagle King, absolutely. The sheepdog, keeping you safe when the wolf comes to your door. Francis, a member, what's going on? Rave Song Records, TLA. Welcome to the show. Gigi is here. Guess who? Chicken Boo. The one-woman hedge fund. We have several one-woman hedge funds in our crypto group, in Patreon and in the YouTube member area. You should check it out. They kick butt. Odd Dark 3, a member, what's up? Right? Papaloo, Andre Saraib, welcome to the show, right? Welcome to the show. Francisco is here. ZEC starting to cook, bro. I hope so. Sauce Purple. It's not a bull market until you can buy a dip and make money. If it's officially a bull market, not just in Zcash, but in privacy, right? Privacy. Skynet is going to be online. You have not seen the Optimus 3 robot yet. They put Grok inside a robot operating system. That would be a person. You could have some sort of AI singularity next year. You don't know. You're going to need privacy. The AJ 93K and it's a breakout ? Okay, well, I was in favor of anything above 90 being a breakout. Naturally, the market had to, like I said, snap the glove on and give me a little check over Thanksgiving. I thought 90. I told Patreon was like, I gave it a number. There was a percentage chance that you could have a more extended rally. Now, if you want to talk about a confirmed breakout, I think you get 2 daily closes above 94, and you could get some excitement here. 94 was published by JP Morgan as the cost of production for miners. I don't know if that's true or not. Eagle King found something that said 71K. Is there a cost of electricity, in Bitcoin terms? So I don't know, but I think 94K is being looked at by legacy nerds like me, like other guys. So if this thing takes out 94, you really have to start asking yourself. And again, the most important point, I think, is Solana, Ethereum, and XRP with those 13 bottoms and follow through. Notice you can have a reversal. Everyone likes to buy it when it's getting sold. The question is, do people want to pay higher prices? Well, obviously, here on the 3-year anniversary stream, you're getting your answer. You're getting your answer, right? T-Bone is here, a Spartan Colonel. Welcome. Steve J is in the house. The DeFi god, the guy who just would not stop on DeFi. If you think about DeFi, let's talk about it. Chainlink, connecting the entire world. So what we're saying is Bitcoin was at 88, but everybody seemed to forget the thing that Tobie tells everybody that, wow, we're not building the platform of the future anymore. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like Chainlink's not going to 100. Chainlink, Aave, lending, Clearpool. You know what I'm saying? Goldfinch, basic lending, right? Fed is in there flooding the banking system. Why? Oh, there might be a problem with the banks. Okay, so maybe DeFi getting a yield instrument somewhere could be useful. And even if that's not true, Chainlink is going to connect the entire world. Literally, not the entire crypto world, the entire world on chain. Because when machines really get going, I mean, a lot of these are sophisticated chatbots and some of them are dumb chatbots. Some of the stuff that's being integrated, say, into other platforms that you use, like, oh, we have AI for customer service. Oh, terrible, right? Looks like YouTube is sending out $4.99 memberships to Ave Medina, the great Santini, right? People who support the channel. YouTube, I think we can press a button and 4 people can get those $4.99 memberships that give you the cool emoji, shout outs, and priority on comments. A perfect stocking stuffer for the holiday season. Oh, by the way, you may not have noticed, but if you go to the Patreon store, so Patreon has a store, the links are down below, and I think the Eagle King has a QR code for Patreon in general. But inside the Patreon store, Santa may have marked down certain reports. The 2026 preview you got to pay for. But certain other reports, they may have been discounted. So you might want to check that out and head over to Patreon. Made that very buy on your iPhone friendly, courtesy of Santa. So check that out. The great Santini is noting that we have 200 people watching. Thank you. And we have 70 likes. Thank you. However, given that this is the 3-year anniversary stream, it would be amazing to have 200 likes on the 3-year anniversary stream. I can still remember the day carrying out the equipment from Best Buy to start this channel rapidly, right? We had to make a move at Thanksgiving, and the channel was up and running 4 to 5 days later. Thanks in no small part to the Eagle King behind the scenes. right, who keeps this whole thing together, gets me building streams that are in the right place with the right link. Can't say enough about the Eagle King. The great Santini, C-Loss C with the thumbs up. Okay, people, that is the market update for tonight. Thank you for your viewership. Please remember, okay, Santa rallies can be unbelievable. And if this is a repeat of 2017, I don't want to get ridiculous because short sellers have had the advantage, but the Bank of Japan and the Fed are not ruining everyone's world at Christmas. We'll see you tomorrow.